My name is Eric Johnson. I am a Senior Developer Advocate for Serverless at AWS. This video is the last in a series designed to help you build serverless applications using the AWS Serverless Application Model, also known as AWS SAM. This video covers tips and tricks for improving the development experience with SAM. While this is not an exhaustive list, I believe that these 4 tips will help you be more efficient. Tip number 1. Reduce redundancy. In this example, I have a Lambda function called myCatFunction, which is 22 lines of code. I declare the handler, runtime, code URI, memory size, timeout, and other data necessary to the Lambda function. I also have a second Lambda function called myDogFunction, which has much of the same information in its template. The only real difference is in the code URI and the bucket name. To reduce these code redundancies, I move much of this information to the SAM globals area. Using SAM globals, I can apply the same parameters to every function in the SAM template. If a Lambda function declares the same property, then that value takes precedence over the global value. Using SAM globals in this example, I can reduce 7 lines of code for each function. For more on SAM globals, go to s12d.com/globals or follow the QR code. Tip number 2, require reusability. Challenge yourself to make your SAM template as reusable as possible. The first step to reusability is to use parameters whenever possible. For this reason, SAM supports several different types of input parameters. The first is template parameters. These parameters are added at deployment when creating or updating a serverless application, and can be typed or validated in the template. Because the Lambda console stores this data in clear text, this type of parameter is ideal for non-secret information used in the application. For storing secrets, use the AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store or AWS Secrets Manager. These parameter stores can add the value at deployment or enable access through the code at runtime. The AWS Systems Manager Parameter Store is compatible with some resources and can provide encrypted value only at runtime, while the AWS Secrets Manager is compatible with most resources and offers open text or encrypted values at deployment or runtime. The last way of adding parameters to Lambda functions is by using the AWS App Config service. Lambda functions have access to app config at runtime via a Lambda extension, allowing updates to the Lambda function's configuration without redeploying. Data can also be referenced internally in the same templates using intrinsic functions. For example, if my template declares an Amazon DynamoDB table, I can reference that table's name using the ref function. This reference allows me to pass the table name to the Lambda function and keeps me from hard-coding static values in my code. Pseudo parameters also allow me to reference AWS metadata from within the same template as well. Use pseudo parameters like AWS region or AWS account ID to reference contextual values rather than hard-coding static values into the template. This method allows SAM to deploy the template to any account in any region. Let's take a look at an example of using parameters in the same template. Here are 2 examples of declaring parameters in the beginning of a SAM template. The first template declares a domain name, zone ID, and cert arm. Each of these requires a string value. The second example declares a DB engine and sets the type to be an AWS SAM parameter value. It also passes a default of myappdbengine. If another name is not given for the DB engine parameter, SAM will resolve the value from the myappdbengine key in the AWS SAM parameter store. With these parameters declared, I then use them to make my templates more dynamic. For example, I can pass all the information to use a relational database to a Lambda function through environment variables based on the data given. Or I can resolve other values from SSM or Secrets Manager depending on the sensitivity of the data. I can also use the data to build strings like an endpoint for Amazon API Gateway or conditions for logically adding or omitting resources based on input data. For more information on secrets in AWS SAM, I encourage you to go to s12 s12d.com/secrets. Tip number 3, use the utilities. Throughout this series, I have covered SAM commands to help you build, develop, and deploy serverless applications. However, SAM also comes with several utilities to aid in debugging serverless applications. The first utility is SAM logs. The SAM logs command enables you to connect to the Amazon CloudWatch log group for a deployed Lambda function. You can grab the logs as you need them, or have SAM logs use the tail command to update automatically as new records come in. Additionally, SAM logs comes with some helpful flags to help you isolate logs for debugging. For example, the filter command allows you to do simple keyword filters or CloudWatch supported patterns. The start time and end time flags let you use relative values or timestamps to limit your logs to a specific window. As previously mentioned, the tail command tells SAM to fetch records for the Lambda function continuously. The next utility to help you debug your SAM templates is SAM validate. The validate command runs a test transform to validate the template. If the transform works, the template returns valid. If the transformation fails, the validate command returns an error. It's important to understand that SAM validation does not check for template formatting issues and may miss this kind of error. Adding the debug flag to the validate command will output the transformed template to the console. This output allows you to see what resources SAM will create from the serverless resources declared in the SAM template. The last utility to help in deployment is the SAM package command. The SAM package command does everything that SAM deploy does except deploying. For zip-based Lambda functions, it creates the zip file and uploads that file to an Amazon S3 bucket. For container image-based Lambda functions, it uploads the local container image to the appropriate Amazon ECR repository. After the Lambda function artifacts are in place, SAM then updates the SAM template with the proper location and returns it to the console or saves it as a separate file. For more information on the same utilities mentioned here, visit these links or follow these QR codes. Tip number 4, set up samconfig. In the SAM deploy session of this series, I touch on different data stored in the samconfig file, but this is just scratching the surface of all that samconfig can do. In this example samconfig file, I show a default profile and a staging profile. I have default parameters for the deploy, build, local, start API, local invoke, and validate commands for the default profile. Every time I run SAM build with this configuration, it will automatically add the flags cached and parallel. If I run SAM local start API, SAM will add the warm containers flag in eager mode and pass an environment variables file of locals.json. I only have parameters for the deploy command in the staging profile because that's the only command I use for the staging environment. If you have default settings for running SAM commands, I encourage you to configure your samconfig file to reduce the typing required when running the commands. For more information on samconfig, visit s12d.com/config or follow the QR code on the screen. This session has been an overview of some of the tips and tricks for AWS SAM that I use when developing serverless applications. During this session, I talked about reducing your SAM templates redundancy by using the global section. I challenged you to require reusability when constructing SAM templates by using parameters whenever possible. I introduced you to the SAM CLI utility commands log, validate, and package to debug and deploy serverless applications quickly. Finally, I walked you through some suggested configurations for the samconfig file. While this is not an exhaustive list of tips and tricks for SAM, I hope it gets you started building your serverless applications. For more content like this, visit serverlesslane.com, where there are more tips and tricks for building serverless applications. Until then, thank you for watching. My name is Eric Johnson, and you can find me on Twitter at EDJGeek. Have a great day, and remember, serverless for everyone.